Hello everyone and welcome back to Fanboy Radio. Today I'll be doing a theory video of One Piece chapter 967, which I read today. The theory, as you've seen in the title, as you've already clicked on this, is Joy D Boy and his laugh tail. A miniature theory, before I get into the main theory, is that Joy Boy is a D. I think we can all kind of logically come to that conclusion, is that he was the king of the lost civilization in the Void Century, so he might as well most likely have the D in his name. But in any case, that's not my main theory. The main theory for this video we'll get into in a second. I just want to say that I'm not going to do a review of this chapter. I thought that in this chapter, what we got was, for the most part, straightforward and was, stuff that we knew about Gol D. Rogers' adventure, but the stuff that was left vague on purpose, so there's really no point to trying to review that stuff because it'd be more speculation rather than any solid answers. Also, I'll concentrate for the rest of this video on a specific theory regarding the very end of the chapter and nothing else. So, for the theory, my theory is that Roger, in this last panel, is specifically talking to Joy Boy himself, the person, on the last island. The way we see the panel drawn in the on the last page is that when Roger speaks aloud, he says it, and I'll quote here, but it's from a scan that is obviously not from the official release, so I don't know how accurate it is. But from the scan, he says, "Joy Boy, I really wish I had been born in the same era as you." When he says this from the speech bubble, we can obviously deduce that he says this out loud, and it's not something he says in his head. You could kind of say that he's saying it out loud to himself, but if that was the case, I mean, in my opinion, he would say something like, "I wish I was born in the same era as Joy Boy," if he was speaking to himself. But the way he says it here, he addresses Joy Boy specifically and out loud. So, Joy Boy, I really wish I had been born in the same era as you, seems like a sentence that you would be talking specifically to that person, i.e. Joy Boy, in this situation. And then he goes on to say, "You left behind such an unbelievable treasure. What a funny story." Again, he could be saying it to himself, but I just don't think so. I feel like if he was saying it to himself, it'd be more appropriate to have kind of a thought bubble here rather than a speech bubble where he's saying this to himself in his head. But clearly he's saying it out loud. So I think that's a pretty clear indication that he's talking specifically to a person. And I'll go ahead and try to back this up a little more because that's not too much to prove this theory. Furthermore, what they do learn once they reach the last island is way too much information, in my opinion, to get from like an inanimate object. Like Odin was saying in his journal, that they learned about the Void Century, the meaning of the D name, i.e. the will of D as we know it, about the ancient weapons. Maybe they could have learned that much information from like a book or a journal or one really, really big poneglyph. But if you think about it, the poneglyphs themselves are pretty big, bigger than like a person. And you would think they would have a lot of information, but what they illustrate is very specific tidbits of information, i.e. the road poneglyphs detail like information about specific islands on one poneglyph. So it seems weird to me to have information about the Void Century, the Will of D, and the ancient weapons, which should be a ton of information, put onto one item, i.e. a big poneglyph. So it would be more appropriate in my mind if that information was conveyed by a person rather than an object, if that makes sense. Another thing here is that what exactly is so funny when they get, as Odin said, once they have the treasure in front of them, what Gol D. Roger and his crew do is laugh. To me, that seems a little weird. I think we were all thinking that the last island, i.e. Laugh would have some type of object or several objects that would consist of, air quotes, a treasure. But what kind of object or several objects would invoke this kind of reaction from Gol D. Roger and his crew? Like, could you think of a single object in your life where if you saw it, you would just die, just die of laughter and like crack up and like tear up just from seeing one object? It seems more accurate to me that someone is telling them a story. Again, Roger says, "What a funny story." So it seems to me like someone is saying out loud to them some specific story with some type of moral, or it's a parable that is making them crack up, because I just don't see that one singular object would cause this many people to just crack up out of nowhere. It seems kind of weird. And then if we look at the upper left panel on the last page where we see Roger's crew laughing, the way they're kind of set up and the way Oda draws them, it seems like they're kind of sitting around something or someone, or in front of something or someone, and being told a story. If you can imagine people listening to a story at a campfire, or children gathering around one person reading them a story, it kind of mimics the way that looks. How Gol D. Roger's crew is sitting in that upper left panel. It doesn't seem to me like they just discovered an object. It seems like they're sitting down, someone's telling them a story, and they're just dying of laughter. You can make the argument that they were standing up, and because they're laughing so hard, they kind of fell down on their butts, kind of laughing and just holding their gut, cracking up. But if we're looking closely at it, we see Odin and Crocus sitting in a way that seems like a person would be sitting if they were laughing with each other, sitting on the ground, having a good time, rather than them kind of like falling down laughing. That's just the way it seems to me, but take it whatever way you want. And then lastly, what exactly, if this is true, and Joy Boy is literally there himself, whether it's his original body or some other form of him, but it is him in a way, telling them the story, what does he tell them to make them laugh so hard? On that point, that's another theory for another person probably in another time, because I have no idea. If you're like me, you kind of looked at this last panel and kind of felt like kind of heartwarming emotion seeing Gold Roger go through his journey, come to the last island, find the One Piece, and then just laugh kind of happiness and tearing up. It seems something that's very heartwarming, like they're being told a really, really detailed and complex story that has a heartwarming end or a good lesson. What that is exactly, I'm not sure. Maybe it could be the very foundation of the One Piece story itself, i.e. what it means to be free. What it means to just be free and live a life without regrets and not be afraid to die, so forth and so forth. I don't know exactly what they're being told, but it seems to me like they're being told a very heartwarming story that's at the very core of all their efforts so far, and what it means just to be kind of a living person and an explorer, to be free, so forth and so forth. So on that note, that's the end of my theory. To summarize it, is that just when Gol D. Roger and his crew came to the last island, they met Joy Boy there, and he told them a tale regarding the Void Century, the meaning of D, the ancient weapons, his life, and how he got there on the last island and what his life has led up to so far. And that's what caused them to laugh like they did. And it's not just like a specific object. And if there are objects, if there is a kind of singular treasure on the island, Joy Boy himself is there in some form guarding those objects for another crew, not Gol D. Roger's crew, that'll come in the future. That, well, when they do, that'll be the right time to use those objects or to discover those objects. But yep, in any case, that's it for me. Thank you guys for listening. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed this type of content. Subscribe. And if you have any questions or want to share any of your ideas, leave a comment in the comment section. I'll be happy, truly happy to reply and to have a discussion, because who doesn't like having discussions about One Piece? And on that note, thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.